He has been invited to join Forrest Yoga, and anyone that's had the opportunity to be on Baltic Square this afternoon would have seen Jambo in action with his team, and I think there was a few people joined in as well. And he is he's been invited to join the Forrest Yoga group of the Mentor Guardians and is travelling assistant to Anna Forrest, who is Forrest Yoga. And anybody had the opportunity to see Jambo speak on the TEDx, he's a TEDx speaker, and he's also a student of shamanism. Jambo likes to teach in a way that provides practical suggestions for living a modern day life with ancient principles. How good is that? So, without further ado, Jambo, I would like to invite you to the stage and to give us your words. Thank you.
Can you guys still hear me if I'm standing this side of the mic? Okay, yes. Great. One of humanity's biggest problems isn't what the media decides to share with us. It isn't the arguments and disputes between countries or different religious sects. It's about how we manage the war inside. Some of my own personal wars. And these wars, they take up almost about 80% of my mental and physical energy. They drain me from living a life of full vitality. And some of those wars are about not being good enough to stand up to speak, or not feeling good enough to stand in front of the camera. Or maybe not feeling worthy of being heard of the stuff that I really want to share. One of the things that I love to do most about in my life is to prove why things work. And today I'd like to share some information of how I use breathing as a way to reclaim the energy that I lose when I have to do the battles with the wars inside. In fact, before I go further into that, why don't you guys start breathing deeply with me right now? And throughout the entire presentation, I'll be doing it with you. Before I go into the first breathing technique, I'd like to share a piece of research that I was doing recently with Newcastle University. For 8 weeks, we had a group of participants who engaged in a particular breathing technique that is special to Forrest Yoga. And after the 8 weeks of practicing 20 minutes of breathing in this very specific way, we put a number of participants through an MRI machine. These are some of the results. The volume of the amygdala, which is an area of the brain that I'll go into a little bit more detail in a little while, the volume of it actually changes. At this stage of the research, it's too early to say exactly what's going on, but one of the other pieces of evidence that is available to us is that the volume of the amygdala changes amongst individuals who have large social support networks. That suggests at this stage to me that if you breathe deeply, you are learning how to support yourself. Is that worth taking a deep breath for right now? Do it. Good. The first stage of this breathing technique is called Ujjayi breath. Ujjayi means victorious breath. It goes in a few stages. The first stage sounds like this. Do that with me. Before I moved up to the northeast of England, I'd heard that the northerners were famous for being pretty loud. Do that again with me. Do that with me. Sweet. The second stage, you inhale with open lips, exhale through sealed lips. It sounds like this. Do that with me. The third stage is inhale and exhaling through sealed lips. I'm going to do this away from the mic deliberately to get as loud as possible. Do that with me. And keep that whispering sound moving through the back of the throat as I finish speaking. And at the end of this talk, if you want to continue breathing in your usual way, feel free to do so. The second part of this breathing technique is called expanding the rib cage. You guys can do this with me. Uncross your legs. You may need to nudge forwards or back a little bit so that you don't elbow your partner. Put your hands on the sides of your rib cage. The ribs are right here. Correct. Exhale everything out. Take a huge inhale and feel for washing your breath towards your hands. Exhale, relax your shoulders. Inhale and deliberately push your breath against your hands. Keep on breathing in this way. Your rib cage is like the home of your lungs. Some of you guys have stopped already. It's better. The rib cage is like the home of your lungs. So when you use the muscles in between the ribs to help you breathe, you get an extra inhale in. Now, I've been working with addicts and people within the mental health industry for the last 12 to 13 years. You can have your hands anywhere you want now. Just keep breathing. And often when I begin to teach them how to breathe in a deep way, some of their symptoms are they begin to feel dizzy or lightheaded. One of the reasons that this could be is because they're not used to be getting as much oxygen flow to the brain. For the rest of us in the room, and this includes me, the intensity junkies, when you begin to breathe really deeply, you may start to feel very relaxed and sleepy. And this is okay. It's just that deep breathing is regulating your nervous system. Keep breathing deeply anyway. In order to get the vitality that we all deserve to get out of taking a deep breath, you need to have active feet. Put your feet on the floor. Spread the balls of your feet against the floor. Now spread your toes. I love having active feet in deep breath because it gets me out of my head. The reason it gets me out of my head is because they are the furthest part of my body away from what's going on in here. Keep on breathing with active feet the whole time, and you guys shouldn't feel dizzy or too sleepy. He's okay, he's one of mine. I was talking about some of the research that we got with this breathing earlier, and one of the other things that came out of the MRI scans was that the passageways between the brain were clearer. That means different sections of the brain would work at the same time. Have you guys come across a theory where they say we only use 10% of our brain? So the suggestion is that if you breathe in this very deep and loud way, you're encouraging more areas of the brain to light up simultaneously. Now, my favorite part of the findings from the MRI scans were when an individual is in their resting state, more areas of the brain turned off. So if you know what it's like to lay there at night, 2 or 3 a.m. and not know why you can't go to sleep, you need to start breathing right now. So how can we use breathing as a passive way to stop the war that's going on inside? Here's another technique that I'd like to show you. Choose an area of the body that you'd like to work with today. And that area could be an area of pain or discomfort. Or maybe an area where you have the least amount of respect or love. Put your hands on that area now. Just put your hands on an area of the body that you'd like to work with right now. Take a deep breath into where you've got your hand. Exhale very slowly. Close your eyes. Inhale and wash your breath in the direction of your hands. Exhale, luxuriate that you're able to change your relationship with this area right now. As you continue to breathe deeply into this area, check in with what dialogue comes up. Is it easy to breathe in here, or is it numb? Or do you already have some resistance about doing some work internally? Breathe into that spot anyway. And as you continue to breathe into your area, has it become easier to bring in more breath, to bring in more life-sustaining energy into your area? And as you continue to breathe into that spot, check in with how the dialogue, your relationship changes with whatever it is that is going on inside your body right now and maybe for most of your life. You can keep your hands in your area if you want to, or actually not all, but keep breathing deeply anyway. Another breathing technique that I'd like to show you in a moment relates back to the amygdala. Now, very quickly, the amygdala are like two almond balls of cells at the base of the brain. Now, the base of the brain, otherwise known as the limbic or the reptilian brain, is the oldest part of the brain. It's the part of our brain that makes us an animal. The amygdala has many functions to it, and one of them is to decide where we store memory that we get from the external world. The other response that it has is how we react to outside stressful situations. So, for example, when you're faced with a trigger, the amygdala organizes with the memory banks of your brain how it's going to respond to that situation. So, for example, sometimes if you have a trigger come up, your usual behavior might be to use something like alcohol or cigarettes or drugs. Does that resonate? Or some of us might eat or steal or lie or shout. So the way to slow down that process actually is to take a deep breath. Because by taking a deep breath, we encourage the nervous system to get the amygdala to slow down and pause, and hence gives us a breath's worth of time to change our reaction to what's going on. This is a technique. It's called brain cradling. Interlock your fingers like this. Have your hands at the top of the neck and the base of the skull. Take a huge inhale and wash your breath up into the base of the brain. Exhale, luxuriate in relaxing your skull bones in your hands. Take a huge inhale and wash your breath right up into the amygdala. Exhale really slowly as you already change the way that your amygdala chooses to respond to whatever is going on outside. Close your eyes. Uptake the sweetness in the fact that you can use your breath to change how you respond to whatever dictatorship is going on inside. Relax your hands down. Now, I know that in a stressful situation, and sometimes that could just be in a supermarket, right? You may not be able to clasp your hands at the base of the skull and breathe in that way. But if you practice this daily, just for a few breaths, 5 to 10 breaths, not very long at all, you will train your amygdala to respond to how you respond to life in a very different way. Now, the third technique that I'd like to show you is using a pranayama, a breathing technique called Brahmari. Brahmari means buzzing bee breath. Buzzing bee breath is really useful because it helps you direct your energy and your attention into very specific locations in your body. I'm going to talk about the chakra system today, mainly because I'm a yoga teacher and also because of the event. I feel that a lot of people might know what I'm talking about. A lot of people talk about them as balls of energy centers, and for myself, I like to live half my world in science and the other half in a very creative way. These balls are actually in areas of the body where we have clusters of nerves, otherwise known as nerve plexus. And within these areas, there's also glands that are associated with them, and within glands are hormones. And with hormones are the results of why we feel the way that we do. And that's how I kind of make sense of it inside of my head. But this particular breathing technique gets you to go inside and dialogue with your internal wisdom counsels of how to deal with that which you have a war with inside. Put your hands on the crown of the head, 7th chakra. This area is about accepting and being willing to bring in your gifts. Now, when we buzz up in the direction of the crown of the head, it becomes really high-pitched. So the people in the room who know how to do this with me, do one round with me. Do 3 more buzzes. Take a huge inhale right up into the crown of the head. Exhale, buzz up, 7th center. Be loud. Two more buzzes. Great, some of you guys really got into that. Some of you still have some resistance. That's okay, but breathe into that area anyway. Because when we're working with the war inside, and particularly because we're in a Western society right now, we like to work with the entire iceberg at the same time. But despite what that iceberg is, whether it's a small emotion, a trigger, or a war that's been with you for the rest of your life, the only thing that you can do with it is scrape it off, breath by breath. Put your hands on 6th chakra. Put one hand on your forehead and one hand on the base of the skull. This is your area of perception, how you choose to see yourself and how you choose to see the rest of reality. Take a huge inhale into this area. As you exhale and buzz it up, spread your perception of reality. Let out. Two more buzzes. Put your hands over 5th chakra, your throat center. This is your area of communication. And not just what you decide to speak, as in your truth and what is from your heart, or the voice of your own spirit, but how willing you are to listen. Take a huge inhale into this area. Exhale, buzz it up. 3 times. Take your hands into 4th chakra, your heart center. Your ability to love and heal yourself, as well as your ability to heal and love another. And a step up, seeing that we're dealing with the war inside, your ability to allow love from another in. Take a huge inhale from this area, into this area. Exhale, buzz it up, 3 rounds. push your hands on your third chakra, the center of personal power and also the center of relationships. And when I talk about relationships here, I'm not talking about just the intimate type, because that's not how it rolls in my world. From this center here, this is my connection to every single person in this room. In fact, every single relation on this planet. And I really want to have a good one. Take a huge inhale into this area. Exhale, buzz up for your connections with the rest of humanity. That sounds so amazing in this room when you think. Take your hands into second chakra, just beneath the belly button. This is your area of creativity, which is an area that we get stopped from expressing in this modern day time. Take a huge inhale into this area. Exhale, as you buzz it up, I ask you for 3 breaths, be exactly who you are in this moment. Buzz up 7th chakra. I get described for the way that I decide to do my work as weird by many people. And people can call me whatever they like, because all I really care about is the result that I wish to share with people. So if you already thought I was pretty weird, it's about to get a little bit weirder. First chakra. Now I know some of the people in this room are really into energy work, so if you want to do it with your hands hovering over the areas I want you to hold on to, then feel free to do that. But otherwise, this way pretty much works for the way that I teach it around the world. Put one hand over your anus. That's not that weird, is it? Okay. I do this all the time. Okay. The other hand goes over your genitals. Take a huge inhale down in. Well, yeah, you need to be okay with your hands in this area for more than one reason. Take a huge inhale into this area. Exhale, give it 3 buzzes. Bigger breath. It's really interesting how some of us are still resistant to access the wisdom that is in this area as a basic As a human being, we have a lot of potent energy that is here, and we need to learn to tap into it into more than one way. And Brahmari into that area enables us to accept that area of our body. And a deeper practice of that enables us to get in touch with the wisdom counsel that is in that area. Brahmari to the amygdala, interlock your fingers. Have the hands at the top of the neck and the base of the skull. As you buzz up the amygdala just for 2 rounds, buzz up in a way where you are focusing your breath and your intent, like laser-like attention, so that you have the power to change the way you respond to the wars inside. Take a huge inhale up into the base of the brain. Exhale, give 2 buzzes to the amygdala. Keep your eyes closed. Give yourself a breath opportunity to experience the changes you've just made inside. Take your hands away. Put your hands back onto your area, the area that you were working with earlier. This time, 2 Brahmari breaths to your area. Take a huge inhale into your spot. Exhale, buzz it up. It's so interesting when I watch some people do this technique, and they're doing this technique and also like at the same time watching flies or like getting curious about what else is going on in the room or what's going on with somebody else. And there's nothing wrong with that, but culturally we are designed to not go inside. If you really want peace, it begins inside. And if you're not willing to go there or to stay there, you need to ask yourself, why are you here? Put your hands back onto your area. For 1 whole breath, commit deeply for yourself that you will change your relationship with the spot. Take a huge inhale into your area. Exhale, buzz and light it up. The energy of the room completely changed. At Jambo Yoga, which is a company that I found up in the Northeast, we have 3 principles to it. The first is the practice of Forrest yoga, where some of these breathing techniques have come from. The second is biomechanical medicine, where I and my practitioners love to prove why we do things. There needs to be an order to do things. And the third aspect of that is community contribution. So the profits that we generate go towards enabling individuals who cannot afford to look after their well-being and healthcare to participate in our sessions. The reason why I set up the third aspect is because about 8 years ago, when money kind of started to fall off the planet, you guys remember that really weird recession time when paper money suddenly didn't mean anything anymore? I decided that I would stop fighting for funding. And I created this setup so that the profits that we generated could get moved around. I didn't want to battle anymore. And also I got very tired of institutions. I grew up in them. I grew up with many different, actually I grew up as a Buddhist and a Taoist at the same time, and I went to school and I had to be a Catholic. So of course when I became a teenager, I totally rebelled and I became a pagan and a Wiccan, and I read the Quran, and then I did all sorts of stuff that I won't mention on stage. But why am I talking about this now? The reason why I was talking about this is because when I've been in these institutions, when I've had 2 heroin addicts next to each other working with me for several months at a time, they egg each other on. Come on, let's wind him up. Come on, let's see how far we can push them. And then they run off into the sunset together. So the setup that we have now is sometimes you can have a heroin addict next to somebody who's just finished their chemotherapy treatment. And the sense of support that they give each other is very, very different. There is a profound amount of healing that occurs when we can do things together. For example, we can all breathe, apparently, but we're here to breathe together. So start breathing together right now. We all have the ability to do well, to achieve well, to be successful, to heal, but actually we do it a lot better together. And here's how I'm going to prove that point. Put your hands on your heart. Take a huge inhale into your heart. Exhale, give 2 rounds of Brahmi to your heart center. Do that now. Buzz it up. It's so sweet that now I hear you really getting into it because it's just about to get much sweeter. Turn to the person next to you. Put your left hand on your own heart. Put your right hand on the back of your neighbor's heart. Whichever way around you want to do it. It gets pretty intimate, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm just checking with something here. If you're kind of doing this whole like, oh my word, you're another human thing, we're here for peace. Take a huge inhale into your own heart. Exhale, buzz up your partner's heart. 2 buzzes, go. Did you guys enjoy that?
Yep.
Right. This is why you enjoyed it. When you make contact with another human being, an essential hormone called oxytocin gets released in your bloodstream. Oxytocin is the hormone of closeness. So it's the warm feeling that you get. It's the warm feeling that you get when you go to sleep. Excuse me. Reverse my sentences around. It's the warm feeling that you get when you cuddle somebody, when someone is really close to you. Have you ever been in a room and you're trying to fall asleep, and for some reason you can't sleep, but another person is sleeping in the same room and it's easier to fall asleep? You guys ever experienced that? That is closeness, and oxytocin gets stimulated. It's also the hormone that comes about when a mother is connecting with the baby. Have you guys seen that closeness happen? That's also oxytocin. Do you know when you touch each other, that hormone kicks into play and it enables you to move into the next stage of healing? So the last thing that I have to say is, with these breathing techniques, they are a way for us to stop whatever is going on the outside. Give ourselves a pat, an energetic pat for catching that the war inside is getting loud. and for you to go back into that spot inside and breathe in a way that stops the war inside. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jambo.
A few stages. The first stage sounds like this. Do that with me. Before I moved up to the northeast of England, I'd heard that the Northerners were famous for being pretty loud. Do that again with me. Do that with me. Sweet. The second stage, you inhale with open lips, exhale through sealed lips. It sounds like this. Do that with me. Or maybe not feeling worthy of being heard of the stuff that I really want to share. One of the things that I love to do most about in my life is to prove why things work. And today I'd like to share some information of how I use breathing as a way to reclaim the energy that I lose when I have to do the battles with the wars inside. In fact, before I go further into that, why don't you guys start breathing deeply with me right now? And throughout the entire presentation, I'll be doing it with you. Before I go into the first breathing technique, I'd like to share a piece of research that I was doing recently with Newcastle University. For 8 weeks, we had a series of, we had a group of participants who engaged in a particular breathing technique that is special to Forrest yoga. And after the 8 weeks of practicing 20 minutes of breathing in this bed, can you guys still hear me if I'm standing this side of the mic? Okay, great. One of humanity's biggest problems isn't what the media decides to share with us. It isn't the arguments and disputes between countries or different religious sects. It's about how we manage the war inside. Some of my own personal wars. And these wars, they take up almost about 80% of my mental and physical energy. They drain me from living a life of full vitality. And some of those wars are about not being good enough to stand up to speak, or not feeling good enough to stand in front of the camera.
He has been invited to join Forrest Yoga, and anyone that's had the opportunity to be on Baltic Square this afternoon would have seen Jambo in action with his team, and I think there was a few people joined in as well. And he is he's been invited to join the Forrest Yoga group of the Mentor Guardians and is travelling assistant to Anand, Forrest, who is Forrest Yoga. And anybody had the opportunity to see Jambo speak on the TEDx, he's a TEDx speaker, and he's also a student of shamanism. Jambo likes to teach in a way that provides practical suggestions for living a modern day life with ancient principles. How good is that? So, without further ado, Jambo, I would like to invite you to the stage and to give us your words. Thank you.
Very specific way. We put a number of participants through an MRI machine. These are some of the results. The volume of the amygdala, which is an area of the brain that I'll go into a little bit more detail in a little while, the volume of it actually changes. At this stage of the research, it's too early to say exactly what's going on, but one of the other pieces of evidence that is available to us is that the volume of the amygdala changes amongst individuals who have large social support networks. That suggests, at this stage to me, that if you breathe deeply, you are learning how to support yourself. Is that worth taking a deep breath for right now? Do it. Good. The first stage of this breathing technique is called Ujjayi breath. Ujjayi means victorious breath. It goes in